Let's rock.
Woohoo, everybody! Welcome. It is noon 02 on Tuesday, and we welcome you all, anyone tuning in to watch and listen, and hear about some interesting things today, which we're going to wait a minute because I want to introduce my guest. I'm Gina, by the way. I'm the cheese whiz at Finissimo, and today I have Robbie G., otherwise known as Professor McCheese.
That's correct.
Right, with our Academy of Cheese group. And Rob, today we're going to talk about an event that you have coming up,
Yes.
right? And that is, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's actually several events, and it's with one of our favorite partners called Green Flash Brewing.
Woohoo, Green Flash!
Green Flash, and we have a special guest that's going to join us pretty soon here.
Ooh,
we
surprise
do
guest.
lots and lots of stuff with Green Flash. We've got a number of events planned for the rest of the year with them. The next one's August 7th, and it's part of a series that we do called Behind the Craft.
Okay.
And it's kind of a progressive, I wouldn't even say beer and cheese 101 because it's a little bit more advanced than that, but we start with ingredients and history, and then we end up with aging and sort of, so we start with the first part of the process and we end with the last part of the process. So that's why I say it's progressive.
Okay.
So
So this is the first one. This is the first part of the process.
the first in the series is going to be
series.
August 7th at their Mira Mesa location, and that's the one where we're going to really be focusing on ingredients, and we're going to talk about the beginning of the process of cheese and beer
Okay.
making, and then we're in history and things like that. And then, like I said, we're going to progressively get more in depth, and then we're going to end with aging and the final steps of the process.
Yeah. And that would go hand in hand. So you're going to do it for the beer side of things and for the cheese side of things.
Absolutely.
Yes?
So our guest, who's going to be here shortly, is going to represent the beer side of things, and of course,
Okay.
I'll talk about cheese.
Cheese. Do you know a little bit about cheese?
I know a little bit, just a little bit. It's funny when Dave gets here. We when we do events together.
Yeah.
I'm used to talking for 2 hours. He's used to talking for 2 hours, and so we're kind of
Fighting for the microphone.
well, we both have so much to say. So it's funny when people say, "Oh, are you going to be able to fill that amount of time?" I'm like, I'm going to have trouble not
Right, cutting it back.
Oh yeah, not overdoing it.
Sure.
So funny.
Oh, that's really good. And now, have you done this with Green Flash before? We have, right?
Yeah, we've done. We've been working with them for probably 6 or 7 years. I'm trying to
Yeah.
think back to the first thing that we did together, but they've been such a big support over the years. We've done a lot of things at their Mira Mesa location, and then we started doing a lot of events at their Cellar 3 location, which is where they do all the barrel aging. But we've also done the Del Mar Fair for probably the last 5 years
Yeah.
together. They do the International Beer Festival there.
That's
and
awesome.
so Dave and I always take the stage and talk pairing, and he's a
Right.
huge cheese guy. He
Yeah.
loves his cheese.
That's awesome.
And I see we brought one of his favorites.
Oh, yeah, because I'm anxious to see if these glasses will be filled shortly. Anyone?
So yeah, we work a ton together, and they're just so
Yeah.
great to work with because there's so many similarities, and a lot of the guys who are into craft beer are also really into to good cheeses and just good food
Yeah,
in general.
that artisanal craft
They
stuff.
appreciate it. They
Of
appreciate the
course.
craft.
Yeah, which is really good.
And not
'Cause
craft with a K, but
not
craft
craft with a C.
Yeah.
Craft with a C. Definitely with a C. Well, I was pulling up, Rob, because, okay, this was a couple facts that I learned about beer. Okay. We know that a cheese lover is known as a turophile.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, a beer lover or enthusiast, you are a cerevisiphile.
Cerevisiphile.
It almost looks like cerveza.
I was gonna
but
say,
cerevisiphile.
It would obviously come from the same Latin as cerveza,
Could be.
and probably Cicerone, which Dave is a
Yes,
master
we're
Cicerone.
gonna talk about that as soon as this certified Cicerone appears. We will learn about that word. But yeah, so I can't even say it. Cerevisiphile.
I did not know that. I just learned that today.
Right.
Thank
so
you.
we put a turophile with a cerevisiphile, and that's yummy stuff.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, this is another one. Beer is legally defined as a staple food in Bavaria.
Okay.
That's pretty good, right?
That makes sense.
The Germans know how to do it when
Yep.
they classify something so good as a staple food.
And I like how in Europe, food, wine and beer are considered food.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas here, it's like something to
On the side, wash it all down with.
yeah, or just a means to get a little tipsy.
Exactly.
Where there, it's like it's meant to be paired with your meal,
Yeah.
and it's considered food, and everything is moderate. Well, for the most part. Maybe not in Germany during Oktoberfest.
Maybe not, but for the most part. Or you would think it would be like water, like it's just a
Sure.
constant drip, all day, which is
Yeah.
kind of good. I feel that way about cheese.
Yeah,
That
that's what I do. I
constant
just
little
kind of
bite.
graze
Yeah.
all day.
Kind of
Especially
like the cows do, and the sheep
right.
do,
Yeah.
and the goats do.
the,
Yep.
the pun was intended there.
Da-dum-bum. Okay. Coming in behind tea, beer is the second most popular beverage in the world.
I believe that.
So that's
too.
kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it dates back. This is what I saw. Where was it? Wait. That was the oldest recipe written in the world was for beer.
Huh.
So not for any type of dish or bread or anything like that, but the recipe was for beer.
I wonder if David knew the dates,
Yeah, I'm not sure on that.
because I know cheese goes back. I mean, the first recorded history of cheese goes back to like 5,500 or 6,000 BC,
That's crazy.
but it's obviously
right?
goes back farther than that.
Yeah,
That's just the first cave paintings or
exactly. The hieroglyphics about it.
or they found like terracotta pots with
Mhm.
with lactose residue in the
Yeah.
pots after they tested them back in Poland of all places.
Right. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, here it said that beer bottles weren't invented until 1850. So that wasn't that long ago. I mean,
And
in
so,
the grand scheme of thousands of years.
so they were just in barrels.
Barrel, whatever they could carry it in. That's
Uh-huh.
what the beer would be put in. Maybe terracotta pots, who knows?
Yeah.
Of course, barrels. But yeah, 1850. So that's not that
That's
long
not
ago that
long
there
ago
were
at all.
beer bottles. So that was an interesting factoid. Read that about 7 million glasses of Guinness are sold every day.
Not just St. Patrick's Day.
Not just St. Patrick. I bet you that goes up, what, tenfold on St. Patrick's Day?
Oh, at least.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
That's 7 million just of one beer.
It's funny. You mentioned the 1850s, and for when you said bottling was.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same decade that the crates for brie in Camembert were
Oh.
invented. And
Something coincidental.
I don't know, but it makes me think of the effect of something like that on just the spread of it.
Yeah.
In this case, cheese, like and how
Right.
it probably spread beer and certain recipes of beer and certain styles of beer, because it can now be transported,
And kind of preserved better.
preserved
right?
better, yeah.
Mhm.
And so, like when you make something like that, it really is, it's really important because now Camembert leaves Normandy, now Brie leaves Brie,
Exactly.
and goes out and it can-
Guinness leaves Ireland.
yeah, and now they start making imitators in other parts of the world, in Europe, and so it's interesting. And one
Huh.
of the things I love, and this about
Yeah.
what we do, is the history and all the effects. It's so much more than just enjoying a glass of beer and a piece of cheese, but the talking about it and the research, the
Yes.
history, the stories,
And the debates, right? On
debates,
what's
it's
good
all
and
so much
bad.
fun.
Yeah. And it can never end, right?
It is
I mean,
never ending.
there's no right answer.
Right.
There's no wrong answer, but it's best to experiment often. Right?
Well
Yeah,
said.
And put them all together
Mhm.
often. That's really good. First brewery in America, 1642 in Hoboken, New
Not-
Jersey.
Do you know what they're called?
I don't know. Wonder who it is. Maybe Dave knows. But yeah, 1642. So I have a confession to make. Before I was Cheese Whiz, I worked at Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado, with Pete Coors. And that whole family, an interesting, story, immigrants coming over.
Yeah,
and,
really.
And making that beer. But that beer was really special back then. You're talking about the transportation and sending it out. But I don't know if you remember, you lived in California forever, right?
Born
There
and
was a
raised.
big mystique about Coors beer because it wasn't transported, it wasn't delivered and sold in all parts of the country. So it was
Really?
almost like it was a contraband. People
Yeah.
were thrilled to come
Yeah.
and get to Colorado and get their cases of Coors beer. They would sneak it across state lines.
Was it only in Colorado that they sold it?
Originally,
For a
it
long
was,
time?
and then there, certain few states, before they really distributed it. But there was definitely a mystique about the beer.
Was
the
it just
Coors beer.
marketing? Did they do it on purpose?
Well, part of it was Coors was really good at
Yeah.
getting into movies and stuff. That was like the cool beer.
you mean like having a guy drink a Coors
oh
on
yes,
the film, like on
Smokey
the?
and the Bandit.
camera.
I remember. Was he Smokey or was he the Bandit? Whatever, which one he was. Burt Reynolds.
I think Bandit was
Is-
Burt Reynolds was the Bandit.
was he
right?
the
Yeah.
Bandit? Okay,
I
the
think.
Bandit with his bottle. His
Yeah.
banquet Coors banquet beer. I can
So
just
cool.
Clearly see this. So they did a great job movie placement, and it built this whole mystique
Yeah.
about beer. And these are the big boys. We're talking about the Coors, the Anheuser-Busch's, whatever. And
Yeah.
of
Well-
course now it's all the craft beers, but there's mystique around all of those.
Well, it was
as
great
well.
because that got me into drinking when I was like 12 years old.
That's
it was
perfect. That's a good. It's not a good thing.
No.
Yeah.
But that's
Interesting, right?
it's super interesting. I remember
Yeah.
when we were in Wisconsin one time, of course, on a cheese trip, there were certain beers that they had there that didn't leave the state. I don't know if you remember
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
this. And I can't remember what it was called, like something cow or
Oh, yeah.
milking cow or
But very exclusive and
yeah.
elusive.
And I remember people were like, "Well, when you're in," I love that. People were like, "Well, when you're in Wisconsin, can you pick me up a 6-pack?" And,
Yeah.
And so I mean, I didn't really know anything about this beer, but
Right.
apparently it was. And I can't help but think it's all marketing.
Well, it's got to be a little bit,
Mhm.
right? Because that's what separates some of the big name wines from something else is the marketing mystique around
Absolutely,
it.
yeah.
Big name beers. Pliny the Elder. I think that's a good one for
That's
California.
a perfect example.
Oh my gosh, people in Northern California, that maybe are lucky enough to live with nearby Santa Rosa to get it.
Yeah.
That's great. But I know, we have that shop in Bottlecraft.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'll have signs on the door. We have no Pliny the Elder. And, kind
Yeah.
of interesting to the mystique. And speaking of mystique, welcome our guest today from Green Flash, Mr. Dave Adams. Round of applause.
This is your left side here. The man, the myth.
The man and the myth. He's real. Dave, how are you?
Hi,
Thanks
very
for coming
well.
in today.
What's up,
Thank you very much for having me. Good to see you guys.
Yes, you too. You too.
We're talking beer, but we need you here to talk beer.
Yeah,
I can help.
We're
Yeah.
talking little facts. Well, this is what we're going to start with. Is you are known as a certified cicerone.
That's correct.
And I'd like to know more about that title and what is that and how do you become this?
So the Certified Cicerone certification it's a certification program
Mm-hmm.
called the Cicerone Certification Program, and it's very similar to the sommelier program
Okay.
for wine. It's basically the equivalent of that for beer.
Yeah.
So the Cicerone program has several different levels, has 4 different levels to it. They have certified beer server, certified Cicerone. Now they added advanced Cicerone, which is in the middle between, it used to be 3. Master Cicerone was
Okay.
the top one. And
Yeah.
there's only a handful of those around the world.
Wow.
So yeah, when I first started, the program was maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah,
And I think
okay.
I was one of the first 100 or so to be a certified Cicerone.
Mhm.
And now there must be close to 2,000 or more.
Wow.
So it's really cool
Yeah.
to see it.
To
see
see
it
it grow.
expand.
And this is worldwide we're talking, or is this an American thing?
No, this is worldwide.
worldwide.
Yeah.
Wow.
So okay, that's crazy. So I know in the wine world, they're identifying a grape from a region from a year.
Right.
The same thing?
Yeah, it's totally
Mm-hmm.
different though, because in beer we're sourcing ingredients from a lot of the same places. So we don't have. I always like to say that we don't really have the excuse of saying that the vintage was poor, the rain was bad that year, because nobody cares, right? Like if you go into a grocery store to go pick up West Coast IPA
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't taste good, no one's going to say, "Oh, well, the hop crop wasn't that
That
great
good."
this year," right? No one
Right,
says
right,
that,
right.
even though it's a real
Yeah.
thing. I mean, we're getting
Mhm.
all these hops and malts and
Taste
yeast,
different.
and yeah, they all taste.
Mhm.
I mean, you can get hops from at the same farm. Let's say we were at the same hop farm and we were picking the same hop, like a cascade,
Okay.
off of 2 different pieces of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Those can be wildly different.
Completely different.
So it really, really depends.
Yeah.
Not all hops are created equal, for sure. Some people get the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Crop, no pun intended, and
Right.
and others, get more the
not so
bottom of the
much.
barrel at the end of the crop harvesting season.
Wow.
But everybody,
Yeah.
the layperson would think, well, if it has X hop, then it's going to be good because I like that hop, or
Got it.
whatever it may be.
What may be. So will bottles of beer, because you've been with Green Flash a long time,
Yeah.
how do you get consistency in the beers like a person to expect? Is it just that percentage that you're saying? They like a hoppy thing, so they're going to like this.
Well, the consistency
different. Mm-hmm.
in the product itself is the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what's always separated making good beer from being like a home brewer that makes good beer. Because I think making good beer
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
is not that difficult to
Okay.
do. It's making good beer that's the same over and
Yes.
over and over
Consistency.
and over and over again.
Right.
Because somebody in San Diego that buys a Green Flash product has to have the same experience
Mm-hmm.
in January that they do in December in New York.
yeah.
And that's extremely difficult to achieve.
Sure. Yeah.
With shipping and packaging and
Temperatures
different
and- yeah.
ingredients and
Yeah.
things like that. So very difficult to achieve, but that's the most important
Yeah.
part for us. when selecting ingredients or brewing or things like that.
Yeah.
Like, for example, in San Diego, another challenge, we have an ever-changing water profile in San Diego because we get our water from 3 different sources. And so we don't know what those sources are. It's not like the city comes to us and says, okay, for this week, your water is coming from the Colorado River.
Exactly.
And also the Colorado River water, we're at the bottom of the run. So we're picking up all the minerals that come along with it. Yeah. And so it's very hard and lots of minerals that go into it. So really the only way to truly, kind of balance out the water profile would be to reverse osmosis the hell out of it until there's nothing left in it and then add the exact minerals that you want back in.
I don't think anyone would realize how important water is to the process.
Extremely
I mean, this is a big ingredient.
Extremely
right?
important.
To start with.
And especially now that we have breweries on each coast, it's really manifested itself into a much more important process because now we're having to try to match the water profile in San Diego from our plant in Virginia Beach. But, it's difficult because the water's very soft over there, which we really like. But now we're trying to add the similar minerality compound or makeup, if you will, back to the water in Virginia to match San Diego.
Yeah, to match it. But they will always be slightly different, right? They have to be.
Every single batch is, has some minute differences.
Sure.
It's pretty much imperceivable.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
But you can tell, right?
No, I don't. I hope not. If I can tell, that's not good. That means we need to back to the drawing board.
Virginia Beach.
I thought you were a master.
That's too good. Well, I see 2 bottles sitting over there?
I brought some beer.
To get into that because I brought some cheese.
Oh, okay, great.
So I think it's time we put this together because
I like both of these things.
Yeah.
This is what I heard. I heard you're a big fan, which is so awesome. And I'm learning about beer. I have to tell you.
Cool.
Beyond, you missed it. I worked at Coors for a while. I know that's a detriment in the craft beer world, but that's where I started. But I'm working my way up.
Okay, no problem.
To learn the best. So this will be good for me. And this is some of the stuff that you'll be going over at the August 7th class, right?
Yeah.
It's some of the basics on the pairings. And I know it's a personal preference and all that kind, but I know that you're going to be able to share just a couple tips because I brought like 4 distinct categories of cheese and thought maybe you could just give everybody just a quick, if you've got a blue, this would be great. If you've got, we can kind of taste and you can share why.
Sounds perfect.
Those pairings might be.
I see we brought one of my favorite cheeses.
That's what I was telling her.
And I brought the beer that goes with it too.
Perfect. So let's start there.
Okay, cool.
Might as well start at the top. This is really good. To give you an idea of how excited I am about this, Sheryl Crow, everybody knows, sang that song where she's woo!
Hey!
Now
Sorry.
that's
Party
a sound
time.
and a look. Woo!
Thank you.
Now that's the way to open a beer.
Sorry, I forgot I shook the hell out of this on the way down here.
I love it. A little foam never hurt anyone.
This beer that we just opened, by the way, is about 3 times the amount of CO2 in a regular beer.
That's crazy.
So it's close to like sparkling,
champagne, right?
sparkling wine standards. So,
oh my God.
Well,
I would
now I
write
got
that
some
down
beer
for
on
sure,
me.
but I gotta go back to work.
And be like, hey, have you been drinking? No.
Well, luckily I'm close to the house. I'll just go,
I'll
get
Take
a
a
change of
shower.
clothes.
This is good.
Cool.
But this is, based on the whole Noon on Tuesday comes from Sheryl Crow singing, we're drinking a beer at noon on Tuesday, which I think is a fabulous idea. So we're doing the same thing. So what do we have here? What are you pouring there?
Okay, so this beer is a Belgian-style pale ale with a wild yeast in it called Brettanomyces.
Brettanomyces.
Which is native to the Brussels region of Belgium.
Okay.
So you'll see a lot of beers over there that use wild yeast. And this wild yeast will go in and eat all the sugars in the beer and create a kind of like funky and earthy and fruity profile, depending on which type of Brettanomyces that you use. So this particular one has a little mixture of kind of some really nice citrus and fruit characteristics going on, but it also has that kind of funky, earthy profile. And then obviously it's outrageously carbonated, which provides an awesome kind of canvas for the cheese. So, cheese is obviously very fatty.
Yes.
So as you're eating the cheese, it just cuts
Scrubby
right through
bubbles
it.
is what I like.
Scrubby bubbles.
Scrubby bubbles.
Exactly.
So cheers, prost.
Cheers.
Chin chin salute. Whatever country you're in, everybody's got their word, right?
Yeah.
All right. I like it.
So I know exactly
Very citrusy.
which beer or which cheese we want to pair with this one.
Yeah.
All right, which one, Robbie G?
So it's the Red Hawk, and if you guys can,
Ooh, Red Hawk. You can
See, it's-
you could stab it. and
yeah, you
hold
want
it
to
up.
dig in there, Dave, and I'll
Yeah,
talk
let's
Don't
about
be
do
it.
it.
shy. I mean, yeah, don't be shy. Fingers.
So I know this is
stabs.
this probably is Dave's number one cheese, and so we talked about
That's a great coincidence. That we
the
brought that.
earthiness and the
Yeah.
the funkiness of the beer. So this is a washed rind cheese. In other words, a stinky cheese. That's what we kind of call the style of cheese. This is from Northern California. It's cow's milk. It's a triple cream. So it's softer on the palate. It's creamy, and so the scrubby bubbles are
Yeah.
perfect for this. So you have a textural pairing. You have a complementary pairing because of the mushroom and the funkiness going on. And then another thing is you need something that's going to stand up to the beer, and likewise you need something that's going to stand up to the cheese. So these are just a perfect match for each other.
Together.
Hmm.
No, that's awesome. This is super effervescent.
Yeah, it is.
Super bubbly in the mouth.
No doubt about it.
woo!
And that's always been one of my favorite cheeses
Mm-hmm.
with it. I mean, most wash rind cheese, I just seem to have some weird affinity for Red
Yeah.
Hawk. I really like it a lot,
so
but
good, yeah.
it's like that earthy and funky kind of characteristics with it. And like Rob said, with the creamy texture and then with the bubbles in the beer, I think it has a lot of complementary characteristics that just make it one of the better
So
beer
well
and cheese
together.
pairings.
So
out
if you
there.
were gonna can you over simplify and classify? If we have a stinky washed rind,
Yeah.
what type of beer? Like if you were gonna pick one that you might be kind of safe with all the time.
Yeah, I like sticky wash rind
Mm-hmm.
or stinky and wash rind stuff. I really like using saisons or Brett beers if you can find them. So like
Exactly.
Orval, here we have Baroque Belgique from us. Anything that has that kind of Brett characteristic in it or wild yeast kind of characteristic to it, I think is going to be one of your best options because it's going to provide that cutting power,
Yeah.
but then it also has that saisons and like especially traditional saisons, saison Dupont, things like that are going to have that real earthy, farmy kind
Yeah.
of hay horse blanket characteristics to it that really work well with the
Complementary.
yeah, totally.
And just for the audience, so you know what we're talking about when we say washed rind or stinky. Other cheeses in that category would include Limburger, Munster. So these are softer cheeses. A lot of them originated in monasteries during the Middle Ages, just like some of the beers. So there's another type of pairing that we call regional pairings. And this would fit under like different types of pairings. Washed rind cheeses don't always have to be soft, though. The majority of the time they are, but there's a lot of Alpine cheeses that are also washed rinds. So they have that kind of discoloration on the rind. They're a little bit darker, orange, brownish. So the Red Hawk, though, is, like I said, a triple cream, Northern California. Cowgirl Creamery is a cheesemaker. And this is kind of an accident cheese. There was like a drip in the aging cellar, and they, like most cheeses, an accident gone right kind of thing. A happy accident.
Yeah.
And a lot of beers were made that way, too, as well.
Yeah, we've had that.
Yeah.
You're like, oops,
Couple
that's really
times.
good.
So I'm trying to think. Limburger, Munster, Epoisse is another one.
Yes,
I know
one of the
Rogers is a fan.
stinkiers. All right. So this beer again was called,
It's called
for everyone.
Baroque Belgique from Cellar 3. You can find it out at Cellar 3. Should be in some fancy liquor stores as well.
Okay.
But over at Cellar 3 in Poway is our barrel aging facility where we have all of our wine barrels, all of our bourbon barrels. It's a really fun place to visit. So if you're into barrel aged beer, I suppose, or barrel aging beer for that matter, then please go visit. It's an awesome place to check out, get some education.
Education and taste, of course.
No
All
doubt
the
about
good
it.
stuff right out.
Yeah.
And I noticed the bottle on that is rather large, almost like a wine bottle, almost
Yeah,
wine bottle-esque.
Yeah, same size, 750 milliliter, cork and caged, obviously.
Yeah.
They hold a little bit more volumes of CO2 for us as well, so we can have that higher carbonation on the beers, and so do the corks and whatnot. So, and we just feel like the format lends itself to the higher end product as well, having the silk screen labels, and it looks really pretty.
Really, really pretty.
Yeah.
Do you think it might go that style? I've also got a blue goat, a fresh kind of chev, and then a sweet Gouda, a sheep milk Gouda.
So
it could lend itself to either one of those as well?
Yeah, good question. I think the Humboldt Fog would be pretty nice with it too, because it has that little bit of kind of tartness and that kind of nutty earthiness to it. I think it would be nice with it. And with the Gouda, I think the next beer I brought is going to
be the
awesome,
one for that.
Awesome with that.
Ooh,
the sheep's milk Gouda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because it's so sweet and just delicious.
Cool.
That's awesome. saisons, like I'm hearing more and more or seeing more of that. Is that just a Belgian style, or
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah, just well, it means season.
Okay.
In French, nothing super special, but the style is based around the yeast, basically, as most styles are. Maybe not most, but a lot of old world styles are really based off of the yeast.
Mhm.
And so to be a saison, you have to use saison yeast, and the saison yeast is
Okay.
what provides that kind of earthy, funky kind of
Yeah.
characteristic to it.
Meaning seasonal
And,
yeast.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily,
It's a
but
specific
it's
yeast.
brewed seasonally,
Uh-huh,
generally
gotcha.
speaking. And you know, back in the day when refrigeration wasn't as prominent or wasn't around at all,
Sure.
you could only brew beer at the times when the yeast could work, right? Because yeast has operating temperatures, and so if you were making lagers and it was warm during the summer months, you couldn't make a lager because the yeast didn't work. And you know, if you stored the beer, it would
Yeah.
end up getting hot and beat up and not taste
good,
good.
yeah.
So, you know, kind of why Oktoberfest is around. Similar
Yeah.
kind of idea. Celebrates the rebrewing of beer. And
Sure.
anyway, so that kind of stuff
Okay.
was very prominent back when we didn't have lots of ways to manipulate things. So
Yeah.
yeast was very important and still is to this day, and those styles still revolve around that. Like when we talk about Rob has mentioned the monasteries. So the Trappist beers that come out of those monasteries, those and the secular beers for that matter, are known for their aroma of banana and bubblegum, and that comes
Interesting.
specifically from the yeast strain. So they
So
create,
interesting.
especially ales specifically, create a lot of what's called esters. So they'll go in and eat these sugars during the fermentation process, and they'll the byproducts of that will be CO2,
Yeah.
ethanol, which we all enjoy, and then esters. So the esters
Yeah.
in ale yeast are produced at an extremely high rate, and that's where that banana and bubblegum comes from.
Wait, so
like
they don't put bubblegum in the beer then?
I mean, maybe on accident. You never know. Yeah, you never know who's a gum fiend on the brew house. But
Right.
yeah, and same with like a German style Hefeweizen is another great example of esters being prominent
Okay.
in beer. Like without that banana and clove characteristic in a German Weizen beer, then it's not a German Weizen, right? You have a Eyinger or Francis Conner Hefeweizen, traditional German Hefeweizen, and it doesn't have that, then it's not
it's
that,
not. Yeah,
right?
exactly. You
So
cannot
that's
call
where
this
that
this.
comes from. So if you had a Belgian
Interesting.
double that didn't have Belgian yeast in it, then it wouldn't be a Belgian double. Same with
Yeah.
the Hefeweizen, same with lots of beers.
Right, to
And then-
make it as such.
And this is what we talk about when we go back and forth. Dave and I have been working together for forever. I can't remember the first time we worked together,
I think it was
but we
like 5 or 6 years ago,
Something like
probably.
that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
go back and forth. And when I hear him talk, I think of similarities in cheese. When I say things about cheese, he thinks
Yeah.
of similarities in beer. And one thing we always go back to is the simple ingredients. You know, 3 or 4 simple ingredients
Right.
and limitless possibilities. And it all comes from seasonal, you know, for seasonal reasons or regional reasons.
Yeah.
Little tweaks that the cheesemaker or the brewer can put on a recipe. I mean, just aging it for another day, year, 10
Yeah.
years. I mean,
At
there's
a
so
certain
many things you can
temperature,
do. Certain
it'll
temperature, yeah.
change everything.
Totally.
From basic ingredients.
Well, yeah, and like yeast, for
Yeah.
example, is a single cell organism. So having a yeast, let's say you made the same exact beer, and this yeast that you selected, you fermented at a cool temperature, like cool for ale operating temperature. Let's say it's in the high 60s, like a 66, 67, 68
Okay.
range. And then you do another beer at 72, 73, 74, something like
Yeah.
that. They're going to be totally different.
Completely
The esters that
Right.
come out of it are completely different.
That's just crazy. I think Pixar needs to do a movie to animate what you're saying, to show all the different things that could happen. It could happen for cheese too.
Let's
you know
get
what I
on that.
mean? Okay, I'm gonna call who's in charge.
Yeah, let's make it. Let's get somebody on
Is
the
that
horn.
Spielberg?
here.
Somebody on the get somebody on the line because yeah, fascinating, right? Just to see
It
those
really is.
differences, to change your basic ingredients of what yeast, the barley, hops, water.
Yep.
Change it into these magical flavors.
Totally.
Yeah,
And that's
And we
why you
all
should
have-
come to
Cheese
Behind the
too.
Craft.
yeah,
by the
because then
way.
you'll learn more about that and get to taste all of these good things.
That's right.
So Red Hawk with that. Hand me over Little Red Hawk, by the way,
Oh,
because I haven't tried it together and I've almost drank the whole thing. It's really good. We had on that factoid. Do you recall what were we going to ask him when the first who the first brewer was in the USA?
in Hoboken.
Yeah,
In Hoboken.
I saw that it said, well, some factoid that I pulled up. The first brewery in the U.S. in Hoboken. Do you know who that might have been?
I don't.
I'm just curious.
No.
Like, I was
Who's-
just
and-
wondering.
And I should know this, but who are the who's a brewery in Wisconsin that makes the the cow. Is it New Glarus?
Yeah, New
Oh,
Glarus.
that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And some of the
New
stuff
Glarus.
doesn't come out of Wisconsin. Is that right? You can't get it anywhere else.
No, not some, all of it.
All of it. Okay.
So they're one of the bigger breweries around. They make less, or they make more beer than we do,
hmm
and they're in one state.
So people just like smuggle it out then.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
smuggle
that's
it, but buy it there.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Like trade for it. I mean,
Mhm.
Some of the New Glarus beers were the first beers that I ever traded for.
Is it
As
all?
a beer
Is that
geek,
marketing
yeah.
or what?
Beer
Huh?
geek.
Is that all marketing? What's the deal with that? What's the
I don't know.
reason?
Good question. I think they
Mystique.
just make insane beers. I mean,
Mm.
they make some of the best fruit beers in the world. It's also kind of a unique category. There's not a lot of like people making fruit beers. So they have access to a lot of beautiful fruit, and they make Wisconsin Belgian Red that's totally bonkers and serendipity and stuff. So yeah, I mean, the style of beers they make are really cool, but then they make some more pedestrian stuff that's really like in every bar in Wisconsin, like the cow.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so good.
pedestrian.
Well, no, it's just like more,
No,
like
I know.
everybody's drinking
Yeah,
it. Like
yeah,
you're not,
right.
we're not cracking their beers are in 750s, like wax dip bottles
Yeah.
too of the special stuff. It's like, you're not going to see people drinking like 10 of those a night at a bar.
Maybe in Wisconsin.
Right.
Speaking of drinking a lot, I have a very important question for you.
Okay.
How many beers must a person drink to see the elusive green flash?
Well, I guess it depends on your tolerance of alcohol. But
I've never been able to do it.
yeah,
I don't believe in it.
you don't believe in it. Great. Yeah, I have had people say that before, that they don't believe in it. And I'm like, well, it's a scientifically proven fact. I don't
Yeah.
know how much more I can like, you could Google it and look at
Right,
photos
trying
and
to see.
stuff.
I'm
So
trying.
I'd say if you haven't eaten for the day, if you have maybe like 5 or 6 in an hour, you'll be in good shape.
Lots
Yeah.
of flashes.
At least
should try
you'll
that
see-
later.
At least you'll see 2 suns. So that's a positive.
That can't
Yeah.
be bad. I love it. Well, I got to say that pairing was delicious.
Awesome.
I could just eat it together. Just magic.
Cool.
And it did take the cream off of the tongue.
Right.
The bubbles did.
So you're ready
It's
for the
just-
next bite, which
I
makes
am.
it great.
Yeah,
so you
exactly.
can you
You
can
want
have
more.
another one.
Yeah.
Rather than it coating your
Yeah.
palate, you have something that refreshes your palate. and
Exactly.
It's
And
really
it's really good.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of people like we'll hear this all the time. Oh, cheese, can't eat cheese, too much fat. Beer, can't drink beer, too many carbs. What do
Yeah.
you think?
Well, okay, great question, because I also get that a lot.
Mhm.
And a lot of people compare it to other, like wine or spirits or
Sure.
anything like that. And I would so first of all, the calories are really similar in beer and wine,
Mhm.
in like
Glass
an
per
average glass of beer,
Mhm.
average glass of wine, things like that. But I think the difference is the volume that people don't understand. Is like when you go buy a beer at a bar,
Mm-hmm.
most of the times it's in a 16-ounce pint, right? When you go get a glass of wine, it's in a 6-ounce pour. So it's a humongous difference. You're talking about having
Yeah.
3.5 glasses of wine to your 1 glass of beer, right?
So volume.
Or 3 glasses of wine, I suppose. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think, to say like, well, I could have, almost a bottle of wine to my
Right.
one beer. It's like, well, yeah, then you could have 1.5 beers and it's the same volume
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
as having that.
Oh, I like that answer.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
So
Okay.
it's like
Makes a lot of sense.
from an alcohol standpoint too, it's a lot stronger. Wine usually is as well. So you usually need less of it.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say that think about how much you drink. If you normally go out and have 2 glasses of wine, then that would be less than 1 beer.
That's
You know,
just
so
crazy,
you could
yeah.
have 3/4 of a beer and,
Right.
it-
And be the
feel
same.
the same fullness, if you will. And also, what I'd recommend to those people, which I try to recommend to most people, is have a variety of different styles
Yeah.
and just have less of them. Like you can have
Yeah.
a few different tasters or a few half pints if that's really an issue for you, that you feel full. Because I mean, for me, that I run into that sometimes, where sometimes I want to go and have 2 or 3 pints, and sometimes I want to go and just try a couple tasters of some high gravity stuff that's really more flavors going on, more
Sure.
aggressive. But you don't want to have a pint of 12%
Exactly. That's,
barley wine or something.
That's just too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Just dial it back. Don't 1 glass of wine is not equal to 1 glass of beer,
Beer, yeah.
from a volume standpoint. So if that's what you're concerned about, then have less,
Yeah, exactly. And
and you can enjoy it all the same.
right, you can. When the flavor's so good, you need less.
Yeah,
I
and
think that in the cheese too.
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't need a ton, and
Little
you're
bit goes a long way.
satisfied. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's very, it's sort of like if you like spirits and you like wine, then you definitely like beer.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it like a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not a beer person.
Exactly.
I don't like beer." Guaranteed, we will
Try.
find you a flavor that you like. There's
Yeah.
it's so hard. I mean, that's like
So true. Same with
yeah.
cheese.
Same with cheese. Yeah, there is something out there you will love.
for sure,
Yeah,
right? I mean, there's
exactly.
I don't like
there's
goat
such-
cheese. I bet you do.
Right?
Betcha we
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
Right, for
Yeah.
sure. So,
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you get into, on the beer side is the barrel aging and the sour beers
Yeah,
and the
totally,
fruited
yeah.
beers, and
Yeah.
there's so many flavors and characteristics going on. I would be very hard pressed to find somebody that I couldn't find a beer
Yeah,
that
for.
they didn't at least feel slightly into.
Yeah. And this is the beauty of the tasting rooms, right?
Totally.
You can go. That's what you're there for, to try the different styles, just a little bit of them if you want, and find what you love.
Totally. And we pride ourselves on that
Mm-hmm.
more than probably anything, is making that customer connection at our tasting rooms. And being able to bring people into the fold, because to us, the beer industry is an inclusive industry. If
Mm-hmm. Yep.
you come in and say, I love
Collaborative.
Corona and Coors Light, we're like, great, we have
Try
this
this. Yeah.
awesome C2C lager that you're going to really enjoy, and
Yeah.
explain the differences. Or like at Cellar 3, it's an education every single day, because we get plenty of people that come in and have no idea about barrel aging beers and what the different
Yeah.
yeasts and bacterias do to the beer. And so it's great to be able to start from scratch with all these people like, oh, I don't know, I just drink IPAs. Like, well, cool, check this out. We got
Yeah.
this whole new thing, and here's how we make it, and here are the
Exactly.
characteristics that manifest themselves out of
Try
that
this.
process. And
Yeah.
it's real fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It seemed IPAs were ruling the San Diego beer scene for the longest time. Like
Still
all
are.
kind of start and still are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll notice that going to it. It's always IPA. What's the next big thing?
Great question. I mean, if I knew, then
And what stock should I buy tomorrow?
it's hard to say what the next new thing is. I could say that Eric, our brewmaster, has the theory that what the brewers are drinking and what the kind of the back of the house guys are drinking now usually translate into what the consumers or the
Yeah.
normal public is drinking in a couple years or a few years down the road. So we'll see if that
Yeah.
ends up
What are they
happening.
drinking?
Inspire.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely leaning towards right now. I think we're starting to see porters and ambers and things like that. Like maybe
yeah.
a little bit of old world style
Like
stuff.
brown ales, will they ever come back?
Brown ale, yeah. See, I don't know, and I question whether those styles are ever going to make like a
Yeah.
insane comeback or
Mm-hmm.
not. I'd say probably not, but who knows? I'm not in the prediction business, so I just know that right now IPAs are dominating the
Yeah.
market, and we'll just keep trying to make great
The best
IPAs
ones, yeah, out there.
along with all the other portfolio. I think something for us is that we try to be everything to everyone as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And an example of that, we just launched cans in 19.2 ounce formats of GFB, which is our blonde ale, which is kind of an everything to everyone type of beer in our opinion, which is, what we try to be. Again, we have Cellar 3 on the very top
Yeah.
end with the crazy barrel aged stuff.
Wild flavor.
Yeah, we have the passion fruit kicker, C2C lager, all of our slew of double IPAs and American
Yeah.
IPAs that are delicious, and then on kind of the more all-inclusive end, we have GFB, which is a very great price point. I think they're $4 for two of them
That's
at
awesome.
7-Eleven right
Yeah,
now.
right.
Smoking deal.
Wow.
And delicious.
And delicious, right?
Yeah.
So it's like those are the people when you're thinking about buying beer for a party, and
Yeah.
you want to get the craft beer and get
Yeah.
the cool stuff. You bring that, it's a great tasting beer at an affordable price point.
Yes.
So we try to hit all cylinders,
cylinders.
as far as we can.
Can we say fromage dauphinois or euphoria?
Yes,
Same
exactly.
thing.
Yep.
There's something for everyone. Yeah. Price point, flavor point. Yeah,
Totally.
you name it. We're got time is run out, but
Oh,
another
okay.
big question: is it mandatory that all craft beer makers and drinkers have beards?
I know where this is going.
Yeah. As soon as he said, "Is it mandatory?" I had a feeling that was coming up. I get asked that question probably more than any other question, and the answer is yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, then there you have it, everybody.
Okay, cool.
I was asked to ask that, so here we go.
Right on.
Sorry, Gina.
Sorry,
no craft
I'm
beer
not
career
sure.
for you.
I'm getting older. I'm kind of seeing some sprouts. Maybe I can grow it. Maybe I'll be okay.
Yeah, the women we just have wear beard wigs,
Perfect when we
and
come in.
then we're safe.
Have that ready for
Drawing
me.
with the Sharpie. Sharpie.
But if everybody wants to learn more, definitely you can go to the Green Flash website, and it's Eventbrite. There's a place on there for events, and you can sign up for this tasting, which is going to be delicious and fun with these two on August 7th.
Yeah.
But jump on there now and do that. I think it's super fun. Dave, thanks for coming in and talking beer. We're going to stay and kind of taste a little bit more, but